Welcome to Conspiracy Files with Zoe Parker. I'm your host, Zoe Parker, and in today's episode, we uncover the mystery surrounding Operation Highjump, a massive United States Navy expedition to Antarctica in the year 1946. Officially labeled a scientific mission, some believe it was far more. What did they find on the frozen continent? Why was the operation suddenly cut short? And could secret discoveries beneath the ice still be hidden from the world today? In the aftermath of the Second World War, the geopolitical landscape was shifting rapidly. The United States had emerged as a dominant global power, eager to secure strategic advantages wherever possible. In this context, Antarctica, a vast, frozen, and largely unexplored continent, suddenly became a subject of intense interest. Though it appeared desolate and uninhabitable, many in military and scientific circles suspected it might hold hidden value, both militarily and resource-wise. The icy expanse remained one of the last frontiers untouched by war, yet its importance was beginning to grow in ways not publicly understood at the time. In the year 1946, the U.S. Navy launched what was officially termed the United States Navy Antarctic Developments Program. It would become known more widely by its codename, Operation Highjump. The expedition, under the command of Rear Admiral Richard Evelyn Byrd, was billed as a scientific endeavor meant to test equipment in extreme cold, conduct geographical surveys, and train personnel in frigid climates. Yet the sheer scale of the operation raised eyebrows even at the time. More than 4,700 personnel were deployed. 13 ships, including an aircraft carrier, and over 30 aircraft were involved. For a scientific mission, the operation appeared overwhelmingly militarized. Rear Admiral Byrd was no stranger to polar exploration. He had led several earlier expeditions to Antarctica, including flights over the South Pole. He was respected and well-known in the press. But what made Operation Highjump stand apart was not just its size, but its urgency. The mission was organized in a matter of months and launched just a year after the end of World War II, when the United States was still recovering from massive wartime deployments. This level of rapid mobilization suggested a deeper strategic concern. At the same time, unconfirmed reports began to circulate among intelligence circles that remnants of Nazi Germany had established secret bases in Antarctica during the war. According to some post-war allegations, U-boats had been seen traveling south, carrying high-ranking Nazi officials, scientists, and advanced technology. Though mainstream historians have largely dismissed these claims, declassified documents and anecdotal accounts from sailors and officers who served in Operation Highjump have fueled alternative interpretations. These theories suggest that Operation Highjump may have been, at least in part, a reconnaissance or confrontation mission to investigate the possibility of Nazi fortifications on the continent. The region known as Queen Maud Land, renamed Neuschwabenland by the Germans during their pre-war expeditions in the late 1930s, was of particular interest. Some researchers believe this area may have hosted underground bunkers or facilities inaccessible by conventional means. The convergence of rapid post-war mobilization, unexplained logistics, and the mystery surrounding Nazi interest in Antarctica created fertile ground for the emergence of deeper questions. Was Operation Highjump really a simple scientific expedition? Or was it a veiled military operation seeking to confront a hidden enemy, or recover hidden knowledge? As the layers of official narrative and speculative history begin to overlap, the full story of what the U.S. Navy was truly searching for beneath the ice remains open to interpretation. Rear Admiral Richard Evelyn Byrd was the face of Operation Highjump, but he was far from the only significant figure connected to the mission. Byrd had already cemented his reputation as a pioneering aviator and polar explorer, famously flying over the North Pole in the year 1926 and the South Pole 3 years later. He was known for his composed demeanor and patriotic image, often used by the military to promote exploration and national prestige. Yet, beneath the polished surface of press briefings and public appearances, Byrd's role in Highjump carried undertones of urgency and secrecy that were never fully explained. Assisting Byrd was Task Force Commander Rear Admiral Richard H. Cruzen, who oversaw the day-to-day operations of the naval group. Cruzen had a background in polar operations and logistics, making him a natural fit for an expedition of such complexity. But despite the mission's heavy scientific framing, the operational hierarchy was distinctly military. Intelligence officers, technical specialists, and trained combat units were included among the thousands deployed. This blend of exploration and militarization became a recurring theme in the mission structure. The fleet itself was formidable. The USS Philippine Sea, an aircraft carrier capable of launching heavy planes, served as the centerpiece. Accompanying it were destroyers, tankers, a submarine, a seaplane tender, and cargo ships. Some vessels were equipped with advanced radar and sonar systems, raising questions about what they were truly meant to detect. The presence of amphibious landing craft and heavily armed aircraft further suggested the mission was prepared for more than just environmental challenges. In addition to the official personnel, there were civilian scientists and journalists embedded within the task force. Among them were representatives from the press who chronicled the expedition's progress, though access was tightly controlled. Reports from those on board later hinted at a level of compartmentalization, where individuals only knew fragments of the larger plan. This style of mission management is not uncommon in military operations, but it left many with the impression that only a handful of key figures understood the full scope of the objective. One of the more curious figures often associated with post-Highjump theories is Admiral Byrd himself. Following the mission, he gave a widely publicized interview with a Chilean newspaper in which he warned that the United States must prepare to face enemy aircraft that could fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds. The interview, published in March of 1947, has become central to conspiracy interpretations of the expedition. The vague language and unusual tone of Byrd's remarks have fueled speculation that he witnessed something extraordinary, something not entirely terrestrial. The expedition's timeline also raises eyebrows. Initially planned to last 6 to 8 months, Operation Highjump was abruptly terminated after just 8 weeks. The official explanation cited harsh weather and logistical difficulties. However, those familiar with Antarctic conditions noted that such challenges were expected and had been accounted for in mission planning. The sudden withdrawal, combined with Byrd's cryptic post-mission statements, contributed to the growing belief that something had occurred, something unexpected, and possibly dangerous. The combination of respected public figures, strategic military planning, and a hasty and unexplained early exit from Antarctica has led many researchers to question whether the true purpose of Operation Highjump has ever been disclosed. As the official accounts grow older, the details seem to fade, while the intrigue only deepens. Supporters of the Operation Highjump conspiracy theory often point to a series of claims and circumstantial details they believe expose a deeper truth beneath the official narrative. At the center of these claims is the assertion that the U.S. Navy encountered something unexpected and potentially hostile during their time in Antarctica. Though these allegations are not confirmed by declassified documents, the consistency of certain themes across eyewitness testimonies and post-mission speculation has kept the controversy alive. One of the most frequently cited pieces of evidence is Admiral Byrd's interview in a Chilean newspaper, El Mercurio, following the expedition's early termination. In that interview, Byrd reportedly warned that America could be attacked by flying objects capable of traveling from pole to pole at incredible speed. The exact context of the statement remains unclear, but for many, the implications are staggering. If Byrd was referring to conventional aircraft, why frame the statement in such an unusual way? If he was referring to an unknown aerial technology, then what exactly had he seen or been told? Adding to the mystery are claims of classified logs, missing footage, and redacted reports. Operation Highjump was one of the most documented naval missions of its time, with thousands of photographs and hundreds of hours of film captured by the Navy's photographic units. Yet, much of this material was never released to the public. Some conspiracy theorists suggest that key portions were either destroyed, sealed in military archives, or buried under vague classifications that render them effectively invisible. According to these theories, The missing data may contain visual or written records of contact with advanced aircraft, underground facilities, or other anomalous phenomena. Another major claim involves the destruction or disabling of several aircraft during the expedition. Reports exist of equipment malfunctions, crashes, and what were officially described as weather-related accidents. However, according to some post-mission accounts, largely anecdotal, there were whispers among crew members that aircraft had been attacked or neutralized by unknown forces. The nature of these alleged incidents remains murky, but proponents argue that they reflect a conflict or confrontation that has been deliberately obscured. The presence of military aircraft outfitted for combat also raises questions. While the official narrative focused on training exercises and polar readiness, skeptics note that such a deployment would be unusual for a purely exploratory mission. Why bring fighter planes and bombing-capable aircraft to a continent with no enemies and no established threats? Some believe the Navy anticipated resistance, either from hostile forces hidden in Antarctica or from something altogether different. Then there are the reports tied to Nazi involvement. According to several fringe researchers, remnants of the Third Reich may have established a base known as Base 211 in Queen Maud Land during the 1930s and 40s. These claims, though highly disputed, often cite the disappearance of German submarines at the end of the war, and the absence of clear records regarding their final locations. The theory posits that Operation Highjump's real purpose was to locate and neutralize this alleged stronghold. These core claims, Byrd's interview, missing records, equipment failures, armed aircraft, and the Nazi base theory, form the foundation of the Highjump conspiracy. Whether interpreted as circumstantial oddities or pieces of a suppressed truth, they continue to drive public interest in one of the most mysterious military expeditions in modern history. To better understand the claims surrounding Operation Highjump, it is necessary to examine the evidence with a critical lens. Much of the conspiracy narrative relies not on a single decisive document or photograph, but on a pattern of inconsistencies, omissions, and statements that do not align easily with the official account. Supporters of the theory argue that when these pieces are considered together, they paint a picture that suggests something far more complex took place during those 8 weeks in Antarctica. The interview given by Admiral Byrd remains one of the most frequently referenced sources. Published in El Mercurio, a respected Chilean newspaper, the quote attributed to Byrd spoke of a new threat: craft capable of flying from pole to pole with incredible speed. Although no transcript of the full interview has been recovered, copies of the article and translated versions have circulated for decades. Critics argue that the quote has been misinterpreted or taken out of context. Supporters, however, view it as a rare slip of the truth, a warning veiled in diplomatic language. Without access to the full recording or notes, the interview remains ambiguous, but it continues to serve as a cornerstone for those who believe Byrd witnessed advanced technology. Another area of focus is the documented presence of advanced naval aviation and armaments during the mission. The task force included aircraft such as the Martin PBM Mariner, a flying boat capable of long-range reconnaissance and equipped with defensive armament. These were supported by fighter planes and a full complement of seaborne defenses. For a scientific mission, the inclusion of such equipment appears disproportionate. The counter-argument suggests that military preparedness was routine in that era, especially during large-scale expeditions. However, the scale and speed of Highjump's mobilization hint at urgency not easily explained by logistical concerns alone. Eyewitness accounts from enlisted sailors and officers have also surfaced over the years, often in interviews or declassified oral histories. Some speak vaguely of unexpected encounters, while others mention sudden orders to cease certain operations. Though none offer direct proof of confrontation, they contribute to the aura of secrecy. The most common theme is the abruptness of the mission's end. Highjump was scheduled to last up to 8 months, but it concluded in just under 2. The official reasoning, weather difficulties and equipment fatigue, has been challenged by researchers who point out that polar conditions were well known and thoroughly planned for. Photographic and film records from the expedition were indeed extensive. However, much of this material remains inaccessible to the public. Some has been lost, while other segments are stored in military archives with limited availability. While this is not unusual for classified government projects, it creates gaps that conspiracy theorists view as suspicious. They ask why a mission framed as scientific and exploratory would require such control over its documentation. Skeptics argue that these gaps are simply the result of bureaucratic inertia and military standard procedure. But believers in the Operation Highjump conspiracy maintain that the missing pieces, combined with Byrd's comments, advanced military presence, and the mission's early termination, suggest a discovery or confrontation that has never been disclosed. Whether one accepts these claims or questions their foundations, the nature of the evidence invites deeper scrutiny rather than definitive conclusions. The pattern remains more suggestive than conclusive, but it is precisely this ambiguity that continues to sustain curiosity. While much of the intrigue surrounding Operation Highjump is built upon circumstantial evidence and selective interpretation, there are numerous voices that challenge the core claims of the conspiracy. Historians, military analysts, and polar researchers have offered alternative explanations for nearly every aspect of the mission, providing a framework grounded in conventional reasoning and documented military behavior. These perspectives do not aim to silence curiosity, but rather to reframe it through a lens of context and probability. One of the central criticisms centers around the idea that Operation Highjump was abruptly ended. According to official records and several contemporaneous accounts, the mission was always designed to be flexible. Harsh weather, equipment strain, and growing concerns about personnel safety in sub-zero temperatures contributed to the decision to scale back and eventually conclude the operation earlier than the maximum estimated timeline. Although the Navy originally allowed for a 6-month deployment, the reality of Antarctic conditions quickly proved punishing. Several aircraft crashed due to ice buildup and poor visibility, and at least 3 crew members died in unrelated incidents. Skeptics of the conspiracy argue that a return to port under such conditions was both expected and reasonable. As for Admiral Byrd's now famous warning about a new threat capable of flying from pole to pole, historians have examined the broader context of the El Mercurio interview. At the time, global military strategy was being reevaluated in light of new technologies, including long-range bombers and the dawn of intercontinental missile development. Some researchers believe Byrd's remarks were referencing the potential use of Antarctica as a staging ground for future aerial attacks, particularly in light of growing tensions with the Soviet Union. Without a full transcript or audio recording of the interview, however, the true intent behind his words remains a matter of interpretation. The suggestion that the United States Navy went to Antarctica to confront a hidden Nazi base is also subject to serious scrutiny. While it is true that Nazi Germany mounted an expedition to Antarctica in the year 1938 and laid claim to an area they called Neuschwabenland, there is little evidence they established a lasting presence. The region is remote, harsh, and devoid of infrastructure. No reliable documentation, physical remnants, or German military records have ever surfaced to support the theory of an active base continuing after the war's end. The disappearance of a few submarines at the close of the war has been explained in terms of scuttling or escape efforts, not secret relocation to a polar outpost. Critics also note that the massive logistical effort behind Operation Highjump aligns with standard military objectives of the era. The United States had just emerged from a world war, and its military branches were exploring new environments for strategic planning. Antarctica presented a challenging terrain for cold weather operations, making it an ideal testing ground for equipment, logistics, and survival training. The idea of confronting a hidden enemy or alien presence while sensational is not supported by the available declassified documentation or operational logs. Though these alternative views do not disprove every point raised by conspiracy theorists, they do offer more grounded explanations for much of the evidence. In this reading, Operation Highjump was not a veiled battle against a mysterious enemy, but a bold and difficult venture into one of the planet's most unforgiving environments. one that yielded important data, logistical insights, and hard-earned experience for a post-war military grappling with a rapidly changing world. Still, for many, the conventional story leaves questions unanswered, not because of what it reveals, but because of what it fails to explore. Beyond the immediate details of Operation Highjump, the theory's enduring appeal lies in its broader implications. For those who believe something extraordinary occurred in Antarctica, the expedition represents far more than a military maneuver. It symbolizes a veil drawn over hidden knowledge that, if revealed, could fundamentally alter humanity's understanding of history, power, and reality itself. The fascination with Highjump taps into deeper psychological and cultural currents that extend far beyond the cold shores of the southern continent. In the post-war era, the world was entering a new phase of technological possibility and existential uncertainty. The use of atomic weapons had changed the nature of conflict. The race for rocket propulsion and supersonic flight had begun. The Cold War was taking shape, shadowed by fears of surveillance, secrecy, and ideological subversion. In this environment, the idea that there were technologies, forces, or civilizations still hidden from public view did not seem entirely implausible. Operation Highjump became fertile ground for those seeking answers to larger questions about control, discovery, and suppression. For some, the theory surrounding Operation Highjump is not just about Antarctica. It is about the suppression of information that could empower the masses. The belief that the U.S. military might have encountered advanced aircraft, remnants of a lost civilization, or even beings not of this world, touches on a recurring theme in modern conspiratorial thinking: the notion that truth is systematically withheld by those in power. In this context, Highjump becomes a metaphor for all the things humanity is not allowed to know. The alleged Nazi connection adds another layer of historical and symbolic complexity. The idea that high-ranking members of the Third Reich escaped justice and continued their work in secret Antarctic bases invokes long-standing fears of shadow governments, hidden alliances, and the survival of forbidden ideologies. Whether grounded in fact or not, this narrative persists because it reflects a broader anxiety that evil can retreat, regroup, and return unseen. It suggests that victory in war does not always mean the enemy has been defeated. The potential presence of advanced technology, whether man-made or otherwise, is another central implication of the theory. Claims that unidentified flying craft attacked or shadowed U.S. aircraft have led some to speculate that Antarctica might house not only lost Nazi innovations, but alien or ancient technology. This touches on overlapping themes found in other theories, including those involving ancient civilizations like Atlantis or the idea of hidden races beneath the Earth's surface. In these scenarios, Operation Highjump is not an isolated event, but one chapter in a long and concealed history of contact, conflict, and cover-up. Psychologically, the theory reflects a desire to believe in more than what is visible. The mystery of Antarctica, with its towering ice shelves, unexplored terrain, and environmental hostility, provides the perfect stage for narratives of the unknown. Unlike other parts of the globe, it is not easily accessed. It is not overrun with tourists or corporations. It remains, to most, a blank space on the map, a canvas for hidden truths and buried secrets. In this way, Operation Highjump has taken on a symbolic power that extends beyond the historical facts. It has become part of a collective search for deeper meaning, driven not only by suspicion, but by a longing for revelation. Whether viewed as a literal encounter with hidden forces, or a metaphor for the limits of human knowledge, the implications of the theory continue to ripple across time. As Operation Highjump has moved further into the realm of public memory, its portrayal in media and popular culture has added new dimensions to the theory's evolution. From documentaries to internet forums, from speculative books to viral videos, the Antarctic expedition has become a recurring theme in discussions about suppressed history, secret technology, and hidden agendas. Media narratives have not merely reflected the conspiracy, they have shaped and amplified it, giving Operation Highjump a larger-than-life aura that often blurs the line between fact and speculation. The mainstream media rarely addresses Operation Highjump in depth, and when it does, the mission is usually framed as a Cold War-era logistical and scientific success. However, alternative media platforms have taken a different approach. In independent documentaries, podcasts, and online videos, the expedition is frequently presented as a critical turning point, one where humanity brushed up against forces it did not fully understand. These retellings often lean heavily on Admiral Byrd's post-expedition remarks and the rumored loss of aircraft to mysterious attackers, suggesting that a significant confrontation took place. The internet has played a central role in keeping the theory alive. On message boards and social media platforms, Operation Highjump is often discussed alongside other high-profile conspiracies, including extraterrestrial contact, hollow Earth theories, and secret space programs. In these digital spaces, personal theories, speculative connections, and anecdotal accounts are treated with a level of seriousness not typically seen in academic circles. For many users, the shared sense of mystery and the collaborative process of investigation are just as important as the conclusions themselves. This collective storytelling has produced a growing archive of alternative narratives. In some versions, Antarctica is described as a guarded zone where multinational forces collaborate to protect the entrance to an ancient or alien structure. In others, it is the site of ongoing experiments involving technologies far beyond public understanding. The presence of treaties restricting military activity and territorial claims on the continent has added further intrigue. Some interpret these agreements not as a move toward peaceful research, but as a coordinated effort to keep the continent's secrets hidden. The entertainment industry has also echoed the themes found in the Operation Highjump theory. Films and television series featuring hidden bases beneath polar ice, ancient alien structures, and secret military encounters in desolate landscapes often borrow narrative cues that mirror the conspiracy. While these are fictionalized accounts, they shape cultural perception and reinforce the idea that Antarctica is more than just ice and snow. Over time, these portrayals have created a feedback loop where fiction and conspiracy feed into one another, amplifying the mystery. This cultural impact is not limited to fringe media. The theory has reached audiences who may never have heard of Operation Highjump through visual storytelling, memes, and viral clips. For a new generation, the details of the actual expedition may be secondary to the idea that something important is being hidden in Antarctica. In this way, the theory becomes a gateway to broader curiosity, a symbol of suppressed truth and global deception. Through repetition, reinterpretation, and reinvention, Operation Highjump has taken on a mythic quality. It is no longer simply an event from the year 1946. It is a narrative tool, a symbol of resistance to official history, and a lens through which modern culture examines power, secrecy, and the unknown. Whether rooted in evidence or imagination, the theory's impact on society has become undeniable. Among the many interpretations of Operation Highjump, some of the most speculative are also the most captivating. These fringe angles expand the narrative far beyond the boundaries of military history or political intrigue. They propose that Antarctica is not merely a place of strategic interest, but a gateway, either literal or symbolic, to deeper truths. Within this realm of thought, the icy continent becomes the hiding place of ancient civilizations, interdimensional portals, or even non-human intelligences operating beyond our current understanding. One of the most persistent fringe theories ties Operation Highjump to the idea of a hollow Earth. According to this belief, the Earth is not solid, but contains vast interior chambers or even entire ecosystems hidden beneath its crust. Some versions of the theory propose that massive openings exist at the poles, providing access to this inner world. Highjump, in this context, was not a mission of scientific exploration or military reconnaissance, but a covert attempt to reach or confront what lies within. Proponents of this theory often cite Admiral Byrd's own writings and interviews, suggesting that he hinted at discovering vast territories beyond the South Pole that were unknown to the outside world. Closely related is the claim that Antarctica is home to remnants of an ancient, technologically advanced civilization, possibly the lost continent of Atlantis. In this interpretation, Operation Highjump may have been dispatched to investigate or secure access to structures buried under the ice. Satellite images, seismic anomalies, and ice-penetrating radar scans are often referenced by researchers who believe they reveal unnatural geometric patterns or underground complexes. Though no direct evidence has been released to confirm these findings, the absence of exploration in many regions of the continent allows such ideas to flourish. Another theory asserts that Antarctica is a meeting place for extraterrestrial entities and human governments. This perspective holds that the post-war global powers entered into agreements with non-human intelligences, using the isolation of Antarctica as a perfect location for secret installations. Supporters of this theory point to the immediate post-Highjump timeline, which coincides with the rise of modern unidentified flying object sightings, the founding of the CIA, and the classified nature of many Cold War-era operations. In this view, Highjump may have been one of the first encounters with advanced life forms, whether alien or ultra-terrestrial, that shaped decades of secret policy. Still others believe that Antarctica contains a form of energy or technology not yet known to the public. These could be ancient power sources, natural electromagnetic fields, or devices left behind by pre-human intelligences. This idea is often linked to theories about free energy suppression and hidden technologies capable of revolutionizing society. According to these narratives, Operation Highjump was an attempt to locate or control this technology before it fell into the hands of foreign powers, or was revealed to the global population. Though these fringe interpretations lack empirical support, they thrive in part because Antarctica is largely inaccessible. The average person cannot travel to its remote interior, cannot explore its ice-covered ridges, and cannot investigate the lockdown zones protected by international treaty. The absence of open exploration allows imagination to fill the gaps. Antarctica becomes a mirror, a surface onto which the fears, hopes, and theories of humanity are projected. And within that mirror, Operation Highjump is seen not only as a military operation, but as a key that may have briefly unlocked something hidden, ancient, or otherworldly. In the end, the story of Operation Highjump remains an enigma, shaped by official records, eyewitness accounts, speculation, and myth. The U.S. Navy's expedition to Antarctica in the year 1946 was one of the largest and most ambitious peacetime military operations in history. On paper, it was a cold-weather training mission with scientific objectives. Yet, decades later, it is remembered more for the questions it raised than for the data it collected. The unusual scale, the abrupt conclusion, and the cryptic statements made by Admiral Byrd all contribute to a persistent unease that the true purpose of the mission has not been fully revealed. From conventional historians to fringe researchers, Operation Highjump is interpreted through vastly different lenses. Some view it as a strategic maneuver in the early Cold War period, a practical response to evolving military needs in a post-war world. Others see it as a cover for a covert confrontation, perhaps with a surviving Nazi force, perhaps with something even more extraordinary. The lack of definitive answers, compounded by lost records and classified materials, has created an informational vacuum that continues to be filled by theory, symbolism, and speculation. What fuels this ongoing curiosity is not just what might have happened in the frozen expanse of Antarctica, but what Operation Highjump represents in a wider sense. It is a convergence point, a single event through which many different threads of conspiracy, secrecy, and suppressed knowledge intersect. Whether tied to ancient civilizations, alien technology, lost empires, or modern-day power structures, the expedition stands as a symbol of the unknown. For some, it is evidence of deception. For others, it is a glimpse at the extraordinary hidden beneath the surface of ordinary history. The theories endure not only because of what they suggest, but because they reflect a growing awareness in modern society that the world may be more complex, more layered, and more guarded than official narratives allow. In this way, Operation Highjump is no longer just a mission. It has become a vessel for questions that remain unanswered. What is buried beneath the ice? What did those men really see? And why has no full account ever emerged? As long as those questions remain, the mystery will continue to evolve. Operation Highjump stands at the intersection of military secrecy, historical ambiguity, and imaginative inquiry. Whether one believes it was a failed mission, a lost opportunity, or a successful cover-up, it endures as a reminder that not all history is written in textbooks, and not all truths are freely given. Thanks for listening. This has been another episode of Conspiracy Files with Zoe Parker. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And if you'd like to support the show and unlock bonus content, subscribe to the Forbidden Knowledge Network on Patreon. Subscribe now.